Euphoria broke out a few weeks ago at the camp of the Labour Party following the announcement by the Supreme Court affirming Senator Ethan Achonu as the rightful candidate for the November 11th election in Imo State. Mr. Achonu is set to contest the governorship elections as the first physically challenged governor in the country on the platform of the Labour Party. Now, we also have updates about this that in the same vein, the appeal court sitting in Benin City, the capital of Edo State, upheld Julius Abure as national chairman of the Labour Party, dismissing the case of Lucky Shaibu and Julius Abure and five others. However, the Election Petition Tribunal in Enugu nullified the election of Brighton Gene of the Labour Party as the House of Assembly member representing Enugu South Urban Constituency and Sunday Umeha, respectively.
Now, there are recent reactions from the Labour Party concerning the dwindling economy, palliatives, and so on, many other issues across the country. Joining us this morning is Labour Party Chieftain Kenneth Okonkwo. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Okonkwo.
Yeah, good morning.
Great
Thank
to
you
have
for
you.
inviting me, and thank you everybody for joining in.
Absolutely. As always, because it's a burning issue across the country, I would like that we begin the conversation this morning talking about the Chicago State University controversy, with President Bola Tinubu's certificates, and of course, what the PDP's candidate has been able to achieve in the United States. Let's quickly get your thoughts on what is currently playing out.
My thought is that it's very sad that instead of celebrating 63rd independence anniversary of Nigeria, flying in colors of white, meaning peace, and green, meaning agriculture and vegetation, we are busy trying to unearth whether our leader is a female or a male. Because physiologically and anatomically, we are seeing a male. But by documents, we are seeing a female. What an international embarrassment. So my take is that it is an international embarrassment that a leader that is talking about increasing the value of Naira, that is talking about increasing the value of Naira, is spending dollars abroad, fighting a case that his certificate should not be released to the world. Have you ever seen that? Somebody is accusing you of wrongdoing, and your certificate would have been a vindication of yourself. And rather than encouraging people to go and see my certificate, to know that I am honest, to know that I come in my integrity, in the innocence of my hands and integrity of my heart, you are spending the dollars which you are telling us to conserve to buy lawyers, going on appeal to stop your certificate from being shown. Meanwhile, certificate should be a document that satisfies you, that certifies you fit in character, that ought to make you an honorable man. And you're fighting with our scarce resources in dollars that the world would not see it. And you know what? Just like every other thing dishonest leaders do, his fight was a waste of resources and manpower. The world will soon see to know whether they can even know the person that is their leader. Because we don't know the origin, we don't know the academic qualification, we don't know the gender, we don't know anything about this at 63. But these leaders and their crop of leaders have made Nigeria an international embarrassment.
All right. Do you think that this changes the case? I know that this was brought to light by the People's Democratic Party, and whilst investigations are still ongoing and we're expecting to hear a statement from the Chicago State University, do you think that this also affects positively, or, do you think this affects in any way the case that the Labour Party still has going forward?
Well, I want to Supreme Court. If I am correct, then we should allow the judges of the Supreme Court to determine But I know, as a matter of law, that in exceptional circumstances, you are allowed to tender any evidence that you get, even after proceedings have commenced and even on appeal. Determine whether they will accept any evidence at this level. For labor case, we just filed our brief of arguments at the Supreme Court yesterday. If you ask me, I would say it's ironclad. But this is Nigeria, where when you do everything that you ought to do, you will still need to go to mosque and church to pray for the best. That's why you see a lot of people in the church or in the mosque, because there is no scientific way of achieving the right thing in Nigeria. You just have to continue to hope for divine intervention. Otherwise, the case is very clear. Very clear.
All right. Speaking of hope,
in my opinion.
All right. Speaking of hope and hoping for divine intervention, let's talk about the hope that the speech of the president at the 63rd anniversary celebration of Nigeria's independence may have sparked. I want to find out what your thoughts are about that speech. Let's look at the 25,000 naira provisional pay rise. What do you make of that, and do you think that it's a maybe sustainable solution for the time being? We've been facing a lot of hardship. Nigerians have been complaining about trying to make ends meet. Do you think that this is a right move by the presidency?
All right, I want to seek clarification first. Did I hear you say hopelessness?
Well, I said sparking hope. Like, do you think that the speech, first of all, do you think that the speech sparked any form of hope? Did it spark hope for you? Do you think there's a speech that sparked hope for Nigerians? And also what your thoughts are in general, then focusing particularly on the 25,000 naira provisional pay rise for workers.
Okay, sorry, because I really thought I had hopelessness, because I was opportune to watch when you're doing your paper review, and I heard one of your co-anchors saying, what is it that they have achieved? That each time they keep making promises, and he's yet to see what they have achieved. If I heard correctly, that is a statement of hopelessness. And actually, he mirrored the exact situation of the country. You were bold enough to inflict the injury of changing fuel price from 190 something naira, and actually some people were paying 185 naira, to 617 naira within 1 month, and from the first day of your inauguration. That's about 350% increase. And then you're offering workers 25,000 naira a month. Not good enough to fill up the tank of their vehicle. And you're expecting them to go to work every day, from Monday through Friday. Something that cannot even fill up their vehicle. No transportation, no railway, no alternative palliative. And then you are saying, did I hear you say hopelessness? Because that is what it means. And you want them to survive. No. The people that have been helping others before are the ones crying for help. And the people they have been helping before are now jumping the lagoon, committing suicide. Nigeria is now a basket case. The 63rd Independence Anniversary speech was fundamentally flawed, both in the theme and in the content. Why did I say so? Independence speech is not the day to marshal out your policies. You can do that in presidential addresses. It is the day to tell Nigeria on the virtues of freedom, to tell Nigerians on the virtues of remembering that the labors of their heroes cannot be in vain, to tell Nigerians that though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. But how can a leader who appoints only people from his own geopolitical zone to take over the entire economy in the name of central bank governor, in the name of minister of finance, in the name of IFIRS leader, in the name of CG custom, everything about the economy, from his own geopolitical zone, eliminating and discriminating against others. How can he talk about hope? No. People are disenchanted, both by the flagrant disobedience to extant laws, to the unidentifiable origin of this leader. What? It's hopelessness. I can't see any. This is the third independence anniversary. Did you see anything that talked about rallying around our unity and inspiring people? Okay, look at the memorandum of understanding signed by Labour and this government. That is the greatest vote of no confidence by any Labour organization since independence. You know why? After they reached an agreement, they said they were going to go to court, for court to take it as terms of settlement and decree that the judgment of the court. You know why? Because they don't have confidence that this government will live up to its promises. This government tells you one thing and it results in another thing. They said they were going to meet with Joe Biden in the United Nations on the sidelines. Nobody saw the meeting. They did not even tell Nigeria why the meeting did not hold. They told us that UAE has been discussing with the leader and the visa issue has been resolved. None. So the Labour Party people that came to talk with this government, and they were intimidated and manipulated with a restraining order from the court, now knows that they will need the court to issue a judgment before this government can live up to its promises. So you are seeing the greatest vote of no confidence on a government since independence. This is the first time Labour is reaching an agreement with the government and wants the courts settle it in as terms of settlement. And going to court actually started with this government. So you are seeing a confused and disjointed government, which ought not to even be there in the first place.
Yeah, we probably, if we have time, we'll probably come back, to analyzing the state of the nation. But I want us to look at, more politics now, elections. Imo State, of course, is getting ready. Ethan Achonu, has been validated, according to the news, by the court. Julius Aburea has also been validated by the courts. There's people who say that the Lamidia Papa faction, has been shamed, and some other thoughts like that. So I want you to quickly speak on that. And then there's also something that I've seen a few times where people say that there's individuals who are riding the wave of Labour Party's popularity, and taking advantage of it to get into office. That these persons aren't necessarily offering anything different from the average Nigerian politician, or offering any value to, the people that they, want to govern. But, have seemingly, decided to jump on the Labour Party ship because that is the most popular, political party in the country at the moment. So how do you answer, or what would you respond, to a statement like that? And of course, bear in mind, I'm talking about National Assembly, State House of Assembly, governorship, and the likes.
Well, you see the problem here? The media is complicit in whatever those people in Labour Party you just addressed as faction is done. Sorry. They are not Labour Party faction, they are Labour Party renegades. And I tell you something, a renegade is a person who deserts and betrays his organization. When have they ever been a faction? We have been saying it, that these are loudmouth political clowns that are doing what they are doing just to take the crumbs that falls from the table of the ruling party. And the courts have affirmed it. Do you know what? The Federal High Court, the Appeal Court, the Supreme Court, on a case that they took to court, on a case that Achonu, Senator Achonu, His Excellency to be, did not even go to defend himself. So suo motu, the court said, these people do not even have locus standi to bring up the issue. Meaning, the court on its own after checking their own documents, was able to see through the facade that these people are not even members of Labour Party. And you know what? I've just been seeing only two faces in the so-called renegades group. I don't know what will make you to call them faction. Two persons. One person that woke up one morning and arrogated to himself the position of national chairman. Let me tell you, the Labour Party is an artificial human being that was created by law. And being a mere contemplation of the law, the Labour Party has only the powers that are donated into it by the Constitution. So you can't go to anywhere on the road and see Labour Party. So it is the Constitution. What does the Constitution of Labour Party say about who will be the national chairman or national officer of Labour Party? Article 13, 1B IV said it is only the National Convention that has the right to elect or remove national officers and constitute the National Executive Council. Article 13, 2B XVI say it's only the National Executive Council that can fill up vacancies in the National Working Committee as the need arises in between conventions. And if you go to XVIR, he said it is only the National Executive Council that can discipline members of the NWC. And you know what? In Article 17I, he said the national chairman can only be removed by 2/3 majority of the National Convention convened for that purpose alone. And you know what? Article 13(3)A(II) says there are 3 national deputy chairmen. And then one day, one person that purports himself to be a national deputy chairman just woke up and say he's the national chairman. And people are taking him seriously and ascribing positions to him. Is there any place in this Labour Party constitution that is authorized that one person can just wake up and declare himself national chairman? They are a mere creation of the media. And thank goodness that the Supreme Court has said it for who they are. Meddlesome interlopers, which I call renegades. So they have never been national or Labour Party faction. Not. As you can see, Senator Atana Chalon was not even allowed to be joined as a party. Yet because said he is the candidate based on the convention organized by the party. So that's by the way. It's very unfortunate that only very few media houses announced what the Supreme Court held. Only very few. Meanwhile, all the media houses were in the vanguard promoting these people, these renegades, these betrayers, these deserters that have been suspended and thrown away. I challenge you, 2 persons. Can 2 persons make up a political party? One person calling himself national chairman, another person calling himself national public secretary. From where? So please, I would not take it kindly sitting down in any medium and allowing myself to hear that they are addressed as a faction. Thank goodness the Federal High Court, the Appeal Court, Supreme Court has settled that. Address them properly. They are renegades.
Yeah, well,
they have been thrown out of Labour Party.
Well, Mr. Okonkwo, we're not gonna. Well, we're not going to call them renegades, but I mean, it's fair enough that you. That's
what the Supreme Court said.
Well, that's fine. I'm saying, as a media house, we're not.
Because you don't have local standing, it's saying you're not even supposed to come to court in the first place. So, as who? If they had local standing, the court would have delved into the merits of their case. So please, They are renegades. If you don't want to call them renegades, call them nothing. But don't call them Labour Party faction. It's unacceptable.
All right.
It's now illegal.
As quickly as possible, help address the second question that I brought up. The part where it seems, or people are accusing, the Labour Party of allowing people to take advantage of it, and letting just anybody, to take a Labour Party form and, ride the wave of Labour Party because it's currently, the most popular in the country.
Well, I have to concede to you and succumb to any analysis that Labour Party as constituted in 2023 was organic. It was people that either by clairvoyance or by brilliant prediction that saw the way of Nigeria being tired of the system, that came on their own and identified themselves as obedient and helped to prop up the Labour Party. And I agree with you that when such organic movement is starting, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly moving in to the Labour Party. We had very limited time to prune down to the bottom because we just had little time. If you ask me whether we have some representatives that we cannot account for their behavior, I will tell you as an honest man that even me, I've heard some speech of some purported representatives who do not reflect what we stand for as Labour Party, the party of the people that is, that is channeled towards creating a new Nigerian personality and a new Nigeria. But that should be expected. We just had about 3 months to the general election. So, but you can see how the people are sieved. And like I said, the renegades are going on their own. And then genuine people who are interested in a new Nigeria taking over Labour Party. Labour Party is the party for Nigeria and for the new Nigeria. Right. Every other thing cannot stand the test of the new Nigeria dream.
All right, let's move away from conversations about the Labour Party and now look back at the state of the nation. Let's see what's happening with the NLC. The planned strike has been shelved for a month. There were people who already predicted, we did have this conversation on the show, and we really didn't see the strike coming. Some would say that the NLC hasn't really held up to its side of the divide in terms of fighting for Nigerians as they should. Some would actually argue that the NLC in some measure may have failed Nigerians. I'd like to find out what your thoughts are, if this is a position you agree with, and if the NLC really has the influence over the government that it should have.
I want to say something, and I mean it. Nobody is praying for a national shutdown of a country. Nobody. Especially when you are into genuine business, trying to make a living as a private citizen, doing honest job, because it will affect everybody. It will make the poor poorer and the rich less rich. So nobody is praying for it. Don't even think that Labour wants to go on strike for any political reason. No, it's for welfare reasons. So I support Labour movement to do anything they can do, if it is possible, to avoid strike. And to go to strike only when it is inevitable for the welfare of the people. So shelving strike on its own is not any indication of a sellout. No, if you ask me. But did you address the welfare package, the welfare reasons that made you to threaten the strike? Can you say that the strike in any way that you have shown will be beneficial to the welfare of the workers? This is what you should consider.
No, but Mr. Okonkwo, can you hold on? So we can, and I get your point, that they wouldn't necessarily, have the, going on strike as their first option because of how it breaks down the country, affects the common man, and the poor get to suffer. I agree with that. But if we continue to, do this, we don't want people to suffer, let's, understand with the government, let's continue to sign agreement. We've done it for at least the last 20 years. And you can see that progressively things have gotten worse. We're currently in, arguably, the worst state that Nigeria has been in. Cost of living, exchange rate, petrol price, there's no, indices that shows that we're in any way better than we were 15 years ago, even 2 years ago. And so at what point would Labour, there should be the argument that if, when, these things were getting extremely bad, 10 years ago, Labour had said to themselves, we must do what it takes to ensure that the government reverses this policy, or the government does something, drastic to ensure that, we do not continue to go down this road, then maybe things wouldn't be as bad as they are currently. Because what it seems, they would continue to understand and sign MOUs and sign agreements and it would continue to progressively get worse. And so you must understand where people say that Labour is, it's almost a useless organization. It's not serving the interests of Nigerians. If you joined us just before we brought you in, you must have heard me say that there's not been a time that I remember that Labour has taken action and the government said, oh, we would immediately reverse this policy, or we would immediately do something better to fix, the standard of living of Nigerians. I don't remember it in the last 10 years at least. So do you see where the criticism is coming from?
Very well. And let me put it this way. It is not that Labour is not reaching decisions. It's that those decisions are not being implemented. You can imagine a government that gave governors 5 billion naira that they didn't ask for, but could not do anything for Labour that has been asking for something from the first day they removed subsidy. That is a government that is interested in politics.
Well, maybe it's because Labour has continued to sign agreements.
What I'm saying is that is why this Labour, this particular one, they negotiated with this government, went a step further to say it must be given by a court as a judgment, because they have lost interest and confidence in government. Remember the ASU agreement, 2009, that was meant to revamp the universities. If it were implemented, it would have gone a long way. But it was not implemented at all. The lecturers were to be punished later because they are insisting to implement an agreement. So the problem is not that Labour is not reaching fine agreements. The problem is that the government has not been implementing them. So this Labour has now gone a step further to say, no, we don't trust you. So if we are going to suspend this strike, the terms of settlement must be entered into a court. So it becomes a binding judgment of the court. So I agree with you 100%.
All right.
And that's why I use the word incompetence and dishonest leaders is our problem. Not that we've not been having good policies. If you read the speeches of these leaders, you will see that they are the finest in the world. See their implementation, the worst in the world.
Well,
so we've been having good speeches, we've been having good agreements, but nobody implements it. That is why I'm saying that this Labour is taking the right decision by saying we have to make it terms of settlement by the court, because this government has even started using the court to manipulate and intimidate Labour workers. So I agree with you completely that so far the government has just been backing and not biting, and the Labour must continue to hold them on their tail until they perform all the agreements.
I mean, some people would argue that
some of the agreement.
Some would argue that it's not just the government that has been backing.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I said, judging, you just said that the government has been barking and not biting. Some would say that Labour has also been barking and not biting, because every time they threaten a strike, it never really happens. Not like we're asking for strikes, but I mean, at the end of the day, what can we really do? It's like we're caught in between the
and
devil and the deep blue sea.
All right.
good. And you see that they suspended for 30 days. They did not call off. In other words, let them be sure that these things will be agreed on within 30 days. I'm not a spokesperson for Labour, but I know the degree of hopelessness and the degree of incapacitation that dishonest leaders go to frustrate Labour. And Labour is dancing between the deep sea and the devil. If they go on strike, they will know they will be hurting their members. If they don't go on strike, they will know the members will not even have anything. So they are trying to form an equilibrium.
Well,
and if you ask me, like you said, both parties have been deficient. But I still put the blame on the government, because at least even the ones agreed on are not implemented.
well, you said you're not a spokesperson for
But the best way, but I want to tell you, the best way to go in a democracy is to ensure that bad leaders are thrown out through
I agree.
legitimate democratic means.
Completely.
That's the best way.
Mr. Okonkwo, we completely agree with you. We thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. And, you know, as you were wrapping up, you did say that you're not a spokesperson for Labour, but you'd happily be a spokesperson for the Labour Party.
Yeah, Labour Party, absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.